Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive, where we're going to tackle a question that's, well, it's kind of fundamental, but also kind of freaky.
Yeah.
What is reality?
Oh,
It's got a whole bunch of sources here,
yeah.
philosophy, physics, psychology. We even pulled in some stuff about virtual reality, and we're going to try to make sense of it all.
It's a question that's really puzzled thinkers for centuries,
Yeah.
and even with all of our fancy modern science, we're still kind of grappling with the answer.
So it's not just a case of like seeing is believing.
No.
There's more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start with maybe the philosophical bedrock.
Huh.
The idea that there is a reality out there
Right.
that exists whether we're thinking about it or not.
Okay.
Philosophers call this philosophical realism.
Gotcha.
But even within that, there are two major camps.
Oh.
Physicalism and idealism.
Okay, so they both agree there's a reality independent of us.
Yes.
But they disagree on, like, what makes up that reality.
Exactly. Physicalists are all about that tangible stuff. Matter, energy, the things we can measure.
Right.
If it can't be quantified scientifically, they'd say it's not truly real.
Okay, so, like, the practical.
Yeah.
The practical stuff.
Yeah, practical.
That makes sense.
It's concrete.
Okay, so what's the idealist view then?
So idealists say it's our minds, our consciousness, that's the foundation of reality.
Okay.
The material world for them might even just be a product of the mind.
Really?
Yeah, just imagine those stars we see at night. Maybe they only exist because we're here to perceive them.
Whoa.
Right.
That's a wild thought.
It is, it is.
Like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, does it make a sound?
Right.
Like, are the idealists saying maybe there's not even a forest if there's no mind to experience it?
Precisely. It really challenges the very notion of an objective reality.
Wow.
And this kind of brings us to a concept called social constructionism, which adds another layer to all of this.
Okay, social constructionism. So that sounds like we're bringing other people into the mix now.
Yeah.
How does that play into reality?
Social constructionism suggests that a lot of what we consider real isn't really inherent in the object itself, but is constructed through our social interactions, our agreements as a society.
Huh.
Think about money, for instance.
Okay.
Just paper or metal. But we've given it value through a shared belief system.
So even something as concrete as money is, in a sense, an agreed-upon reality.
Exactly.
We decide it has value, and poof, it does.
Yeah, and this applies to so many things.
Wow.
Social constructionism really shows how powerful our shared beliefs are in shaping the world we live in.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
But just when you thought it couldn't get any more mind-bending,
Oh, no.
we have science coming in to shake things up even further.
Okay, I am ready for the science twist.
All right.
What does science have to say about all of this?
Well, let's talk about quantum mechanics,
Okay.
a branch of physics that deals with the very small, the subatomic world. It's here that things start to get really, really weird because quantum mechanics suggests that our everyday notions of reality might be completely off.
Hey, lay it on me.
Yeah.
How does quantum mechanics challenge our understanding of reality?
One of the most important concepts in quantum mechanics is something called superposition.
Superposition.
Yeah, and it basically says that particles can exist in multiple states at the same time
At the same time.
until they are observed.
Okay.
Think of it like your job.
Okay.
Let's say you're a project manager,
I am not, but okay.
but let's just say you are.
Right.
You've got multiple projects running simultaneously, each in different stages of completion, right?
Okay.
Until you focus on a specific project.
Right.
It's like they all exist in this state of potential.
Okay.
It's only when you focus your attention making a measurement or observation that one possibility becomes a reality.
So instead of a project being definitively done or not done,
Yeah.
it's in a state of both.
Yeah.
Until I zoom in on it.
Right.
And then bam, it solidifies into a single state.
Ex-
That's kind of how particles behave in the quantum world.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
It's like the act of observation forces the particle to choose a state. This is called wave function collapse.
So my observation is actually influencing reality at a fundamental level.
It is indeed.
That's mind-blowing.
And what's even more mind-blowing is that this idea of observation influencing reality lends some credence to that idealist view we talked about earlier.
Really?
Maybe consciousness does play a role in shaping reality.
Whoa. Okay, so we've got philosophy and science starting to intersect here, which is fascinating.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like there's more to the story. You mentioned relativity before.
Yes, Einstein's theory of relativity.
Okay.
And this one is going to stretch your perception of reality even further. Relativity throws another wrench into our understanding of reality by saying that even time and space, things we consider fundamental, are relative.
Oh, okay. I'm going to need you to break that down for me relative to what?
Relative to your frame of reference, imagine you're in a super fast spaceship approaching the speed of light. Time actually slows down for you relative to someone standing still on Earth.
So time is literally different for me on the spaceship compared to someone back on Earth. It's not just a perception thing.
Nope, it's a real, measurable phenomenon. Your experience of time diverges from theirs, and it's not just time-space itself is also warped by gravity and motion.
Hold on. So there's no single universally agreed upon now.
Right.
It's different depending on where you are and how fast you're moving.
You got it. And that means there's no single fixed objective reality that everyone experiences in the same way. It's a very different picture from the one we get from our everyday experience.
Okay, so we've got idealism versus physicalism, social constructs, quantum weirdness, and now relativity, messing with time and space. At this point, I'm starting to question everything I thought I knew about reality. Where do we even go from here?
Well, even with all these mind-bending ideas from philosophy and science, there's one more layer we have to consider: our own brains.
Right, because even if there's some objective reality out there,
Yeah.
we experience it through our own very human filters, don't we?
Exactly. We call this perceptual reality, the reality our brain constructs based on what our senses pick up, and it's not always a perfect representation of what's actually there.
So what I see in here might not be the whole picture.
Not necessarily. Think of it like this. You're at work and you receive an email that seems curt or dismissive. Your immediate reality based on your perception is that your coworker is being rude.
Yeah, I've been there. It's easy to jump to conclusions based on a single email.
But what you might not know is that your coworker is dealing with a stressful deadline or a personal issue. That extra context changes the reality of the situation.
So our perception is just the starting point. Our brain fills in the gaps with our own assumptions, experiences, and even our current mood.
Precisely. It's like our brain is constantly editing the movie of reality before we get to see it, and sometimes it throws in some special effects that aren't actually there.
That makes me think of those optical illusions, where you see something one way, and then your brain flips the image and suddenly it's something completely different.
Exactly. Optical illusions are a great example of how our perception can be tricked, showing that what we see isn't always a reliable reflection of the physical world. And to make things even more interesting, we now have technology that can create entire artificial realities, sometimes virtual reality.
Right, VR. It's like stepping into another world, even though, logically it's just a simulation.
And yet your brain can be completely fooled by it. The more immersive the VR experience, the more real it feels. This raises some fascinating questions about how adaptable our brains are. Can we truly distinguish between real reality and a simulated one if it's convincing enough?
It's like we've come full circle back to that idealist perspective. If our brains are creating the experience, does it even matter if the source is real or not?
Yeah.
Maybe it's all just different levels of reality.
That's a profound question, and it leads us to an even deeper level of inquiry. Not just what reality is, but what it means to experience existence, to be a conscious being navigating this world of perceptions and interpretations.
Okay, so after exploring all this, the philosophy, the science, the way our brains work, where does this leave us? What are we supposed to do with all this information about reality?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that just asking the question, what is reality, is a valuable exercise in itself. Philosophers like Sartre and Heidegger dedicated their lives to these questions, emphasizing that the search for meaning is an essential part of the human experience.
It's not just about finding a definitive answer, but about the journey of exploration, of grappling with these profound ideas.
Exactly. And it's not just a philosophical exercise. Understanding these different layers of reality can help us navigate the world in a more informed and compassionate way. Knowing that our perceptions aren't always accurate can make us more open to understanding others' perspectives, even if they conflict with our own.
It encourages us to be more curious, more open-minded, and less judgmental about the way others experience the world.
Absolutely. And recognizing how social forces shape our reality can make us more aware of the biases and assumptions we carry, prompting us to question things we might otherwise take for granted. It's about becoming more conscious, more critical thinkers.
I love that. So this deep dive into reality isn't just about mind-bending concepts. It's about becoming more aware, more mindful of the way we experience and interact with the world.
You got it. It's about appreciating the complexity of reality, accepting that there might not be one definitive answer, and embracing the mystery of it all.
Well, I have to admit, this has been one wild ride. My head is definitely spinning. But in a good way, it's made me realize just how much I don't know. And that's both exciting and humbling at the same time.
That's the beauty of exploring these big questions. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to question. We've only scratched the surface here, and I hope this deep dive has inspired you to continue exploring on your own.
To our listener, we know this has been a lot to take in. Don't worry if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. We've covered some truly mind-bending concepts, and it's okay if you need some time to process it all.
But we hope we've given you some food for thought, some new perspectives to consider, and maybe even sparked your curiosity to dive deeper into some of these topics.
Exactly. Because ultimately, that's what this is all about. Questioning, exploring, and expanding our understanding of the world around us and our place within it.
And speaking of dimensions, that brings me to a final thought. I'd like to leave you with our listener. If our senses can be tricked, if time and space are relative, if our brains are constantly constructing our reality, what does that say about the nature of the world we inhabit?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's almost like you're asking, is there anything we can truly take for granted?
I think that's at the heart of it all, isn't it? This deep dive has taken us on a journey from ancient philosophical questions to cutting-edge science and even our own individual experiences. And maybe the biggest takeaway is that reality is far more complex, far more nuanced than we often realize.
Right. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually
Yeah.
pretty exciting. It means there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to discover.
Precisely so. Keep questioning, keep exploring, keep an open mind. Who knows what other layers of reality are waiting to be uncovered?
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into reality. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.
And speaking of dimensions, that brings me to a final thought. I'd like to leave you with our listener. If our senses can be tricked, if time and space are relative, if our brains are constantly constructing our reality, what does that say about the nature of the world we inhabit?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's almost like you're asking, is there anything we can truly take for granted?
I think that's at the heart of it all, isn't it? This deep dive has taken us on a journey from ancient philosophical questions to cutting-edge science and even our own individual experiences. And maybe the biggest takeaway is that reality is far more complex, far more nuanced than we often realize.
Right. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually pretty exciting. It means there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to discover.
Precisely. So keep questioning, keep exploring, keep an open mind. Who knows what other layers of reality are waiting to be uncovered?
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into reality. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.